I am a face changer. I can change anyone's face into whatever they desire. I have helped many people change their faces, and today a peerless beauty arrived. The Marquis' wife, who enjoyed wealth and stood above 10,000. The news that Marquis Chang'an wanted to take an equal wife. After spreading through the capital for 3 days, the Marquis' wife visited my small shop. I heard that Dianzhuang Pavilion can change faces for people. Shop owner, are you willing to take this commission? I looked at the lady's flower-like countenance and smiled softly. The rule of Dianzhuang Pavilion is that for beauties. No payment is required. But the face you discard must remain in the pavilion for my use. The lady softly agreed. I took a wriggling goo insect from the box and confirmed with the Marquis' wife one last time. This face-changing bone can only be used once. Once the appearance is altered, it can never be changed back. The lady's tone was firm. Change it. I will not regret it. I shook a sharp needle from my sleeve and made a cut below the lady's ear. The goo insect in my hand moved upon smelling blood, drilling through the cut into the lady's fair skin. The lady's raven-like eyelashes trembled slightly, and her pale red lips were tightly pressed. I can never help but feel pity for beauties. I have some rare painkillers, free of charge. I can give them to you for free. Long before the lady approached me with her request, I had clearly explained the pain of the process. Face-changing takes 7 days in total. For the first 5 days, the face-changing bone bores into the skin, peeling the skin from the flesh and bone bit by bit from within. This is the first pain. In the last 2 days, the original skin falls off completely. And as the new skin attaches, the face-changing bone secretes mucus, corroding any bone that doesn't fit. At that time, the lady had clearly bitten her lip in fear. Yet now she resolutely refused my help. Her voice trembled slightly. I want to remember this pain well. Only when it hurts enough will I stop thinking of turning back. How could anyone be willing to replace such a breathtakingly beautiful face? For the sake of escape, for the sake of freedom. The reasons guests come to Dianzhuang Pavilion to change faces are mostly to evade enemies or to possess a more beautiful appearance. Only the lady was different. I couldn't help but wonder, what could make the pampered wife of a marquis prefer to endure agony that ordinary people cannot, just to escape her lack of freedom? What could it possibly be? To monitor the goo insect's condition at all times, I took the place of the lady's personal maid and entered the Marquis' estate. The lady could not stay outside for long, so I disguised myself as her newly bought maid and moved in. Unexpectedly, I encountered a coincidence in the estate. The equal wife that Marquis Chang'an prepared to marry. The lady's biological sister, who was found after years of being lost, was a client who had changed her face with me. She had usurped the identity of the person whose face she took. At night, as she was preparing to rest, Marquis Chang'an arrived. It had always been rumored in the capital that Marquis Chang'an was a rare romantic soul from a noble house, deeply devoted and faithful to his wife, never allowing any other woman near him. I waited by the side, observing from the corner of my eye this so-called romantic, who disregarded his first wife's dignity to take an equal wife. High brows and deep-set eyes, a straight bridge of the nose, and slightly downturned thin lips. His face was indeed a handsome one, but his overall aura was too cold and stern, revealing a thin and heartless nature. His voice was even colder, freezing to the bone. How much longer are you going to make a fuss with me? Ninger and I originally had a marriage contract, out of consideration for our childhood friendship. I didn't demote you from wife to concubine, but instead let Ninger be the equal wife. And yet you are still unsatisfied. She is your own biological sister. You already stole her position as the primary wife. What more do you want to argue with her about? The lady lightly bit her red lips. There was no anger on her face, only disappointment and sadness. Do not forget, back then you said yourself that you loved me, and begged both our parents to agree that I fulfill the contract for my sister and marry you, since you feel the position of primary wife should belong to her. You could have simply divorced me. I never thought of competing with her for anything. Marquis Chang'an's expression froze slightly, and his tone softened a bit. Stop intentionally saying angry words to prick me. Your parents were not kind to you. Where could you go without me? Besides, I couldn't bear to treat you that way. Taking Ninger into the house is merely to compensate her for the suffering during her missing years. It will not affect the feelings between you and me. The Marquis' manor will always be your home. I will always be your husband. These two things will not change. He spoke tenderly, whispering sweet words, and reached out to embrace the madam. The madam lowered her eyes, motionless, like a wooden carving in his arms, giving no response at all. Marquis Chang'an coaxed her for a few more words. Suddenly, a maid's voice came from outside. Marquis, our young mistress is plagued by nightmares. She keeps crying and calling your name. Please go and see the young mistress. Upon hearing this, Marquis Chang'an did not hesitate for a moment, and immediately let go of the madam. Ninger is not like you, precious and noble, raised in luxury. She wandered outside for many years. Her personality is timid and fearful. I will go check on her. I'll be back shortly. After the madam nodded, he left without looking back, walking away with long strides. The words the madam whispered to herself were heard only by me, standing beside her. Was I not also raised in fear and trembling? Yet no one ever felt sorry for me. Marquis Chang'an did not return that night. Starting from the next day, as the goo insects stripped away more and more flesh, the madam felt increasingly intense pain. But she remained as if she felt no pain. With a calm expression, a lifeless kind of calm, a calm devoid of any vitality, a maid entered to announce, Madam, Master Yi, and Old Madam Yi have arrived. The Marquis asks you to meet them in the main hall. I supported the madam's hand and followed her to the main hall. Upon entering, two elders over 50 glared at her. Old Madam Yi asked first, Xunshu, I heard Ninger was plagued by nightmares last night. We let Ninger move into the manor early. Wasn't it so you could help her recover her health? As her elder sister, how on earth have you been caring for her? Master Yi followed immediately. Didn't you study medicine under the divine physician? Why, after your sister has lived here for so long, have you not yet cured her nightmare affliction? The madam said helplessly, Father, Mother, have you forgotten? Last time I gave my sister a medicinal soup to calm her nerves and replenish her qi. She refused to drink it and cried, claiming I wanted to poison her. For this, the Marquis called me a poisonous woman and put me in confinement. You both also came in person to scold and berate me for an entire day. None of you believed me. How could I dare intervene in her treatment again? Once these words were spoken, Master Yi and Old Madam Yi both froze. Old Madam Yi snorted coldly and said, I see you simply resent Ninger's return and taking your place as the Marquis's wife. So you deliberately watched her suffer from nightmares and stood by doing nothing. Do not forget, you took this position. It originally belonged to her and should be returned to her. I saw tears glistening in the madam's eyes. Her hands trembled as she pointed at the two and said, You listened to my sister say she loved the Marquis. So you tricked me into bringing him home. Not hesitating to use drugs just to create a scene of intimacy between the Marquis and my sister, causing me to miscarry, making me suffer the agony of losing my child. Was it all because you felt I took my sister's place? Is that so? Old Madam Yi asked back. Is it not? If you hadn't taken the husband who should have belonged to Ninger, and then, after she returned, firmly disagreed with her marrying into the Marquis's house, causing her to lose her appetite at home, and spend her days in tears, your father and I would not have resorted to such a desperate measure. As for the child in your womb, that was your own lack of fortune, and your inability to keep it. The madam clenched her hands, asking with red-rimmed eyes, I clearly said I could request a divorce and give the position of primary wife to my sister. Why did you not agree? Master Yi flicked his sleeve and scolded. A married daughter being cast off by her husband's family. What a laughable scandal that would be. You have no shame. Face, your mother and your sister still need to save face. These words were almost an explicit accusation that the madam was shameless. The madam's body couldn't help but sway. I hurriedly stepped forward to steady her. The belated Marquis Chang'an happened to hear this final part. Looking at the madam's pale and fragile face, a flash of reluctance crossed his eyes. He comforted her, saying, Since I married you, I have never thought of divorcing you. You will be mine for the rest of your life. I take such good care of Ninger, and she is your own younger sister. So it's because of my love for you that I love her too. Old Madam Yi scolded the madam. As an elder sister, you have neglected your duties, leaving the Marquis to take care of your sister for you. It's one thing not to be grateful to her. But how dare you throw a tantrum over this? So senseless and unreasonable. When we agreed to let a jealous and immoral daughter like you marry into the Marquis's manor, it was we who owed Huixiu. The madam closed her eyes. Huh? Seeing this, the Marquis of Chang'an's expression changed. He pushed me aside and supported the madam's waist himself. What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Why didn't you say so sooner? Had I known, I wouldn't have let you go out to receive your parents-in-law. After speaking, he lifted the madam up in his arms and hurried back to the inner courtyard, not forgetting to order me to call a physician. Master Yi and old Madam Yi left with grim expressions. The Marquis of Chang'an stayed with the physician. As he took the madam's pulse, he only left after hearing that the madam was not seriously ill. Only when no one else was in the room did I have the chance to ask the question in my heart. Were those two elderly people just now your parents? The madam's eyes dimmed, and she nodded slightly. I was shocked. Are they biological? Looking at the way those two insulted her, the madam didn't seem like their daughter, but rather like an enemy. The madam gave a bitter smile. I would rather I weren't biological. A short while later, another guest arrived in the room. Following the maid's announcement, a beauty in a red dress entered the bedroom. Her voice melodious and seductive. I heard that elder sister is ill. Presumably this is the madam's younger sister, who was lost in childhood and only found after growing up. I looked up, and my pupils suddenly contracted. This person is a guest who had visited the Dianzhuang Pavilion branch I opened in Jiangnan. The reason I still remember her is because the face this guest wanted to change into was truly exquisite and moving. It happened that I encountered her while touring Jiangnan. Fearing my subordinate's skill was lacking and would ruin the beauty's appearance, so I did it myself. I searched my mind for information about the person before me. She was originally the madam of Yu Pavilion, already 32 years old, carrying a beauty's corpse that had just ceased breathing and had not yet lost its warmth. She came to me offering her entire fortune to buy a chance for a face swap from Dianzhuang Pavilion. The face she took was exactly the look of the 17-year-old beauty before me. Perhaps my gaze lingered too long. The beauty glanced at me sideways, gave a respectful smile, and then lowered her head. I entered the Marquis' manor in disguise. The person before me didn't recognize me, and Dianzhuang Pavilion always takes orders without asking the guest's destination. Even if I happen to meet her today, for the sake of the guest's privacy, I wouldn't reveal a single bit to others. It's just that I've always loved gossip, and I'm truly curious about the story between this face-swapped madam and the madam's family. She is 32 years old. It's impossible for her to be the biological sister of the madam, who is only 20. It's more likely she stole the identity of the person whose face she took. The madam was not warm toward this sister. I am fine. No need for you to worry. Please leave. I want to rest. Hearing this, the woman's eyes flickered, and she laughed softly. Haha. I know elder sister is unhappy to see me. Tonight I'll leave the Marquis to you for one night, so he can care for you. You must recover your health well, as my wedding with the Marquis is in half a month, and I'll be relying on you to organize it. These words, seemingly considerate, were actually intended to show off, making the madam sneer, and she did not continue the conversation. In the evening, the Marquis of Chang'an indeed came, sitting and chatting with the madam. The Marquis spoke with a tender and affectionate manner. Seeing you lean over and wanting to vomit today, I thought you were carrying my child again. I went to the palace to ask the imperial physician for a recovery prescription for you. Even if Ninger enters the household, the legitimate son of the Marquis' estate, I will only let you give birth. He put on an air of deep, silent affection. It seems the rumors that Marquis Chang'an deeply loves his first wife are not entirely baseless. He does love her, but this love is now split in two. His words, however, caused the madam's expression to turn cold. Our child was killed by you, have you forgotten? Marquis Chang'an was stunned, a bit annoyed, and a bit guilty. You are still blaming me. If your parents hadn't plotted against me, how would I have ended up with Ninger? and caused you to miscarry out of anger. It was clearly your father and parents. They don't love you. I am the only one who loves and cares for you. Madam stood up and smashed the teacup on the table. In a rage. Get out. I don't want to see you right now. Nor do I want to hear your disgusting words. Marquis Chang'an felt humiliated. His expression also turned cold. His tone became icy. It seems I was too good to you in the past. That I spoiled you into being so ungrateful. Ninger is afraid of the dark. She cried and begged me not to leave. It was because I was concerned for your health that I chose to heartlessly leave her alone, only to find that I cannot get a single kind look from you. He flicked his sleeve and left. The anger on Madam's face vanished, returning to her usual expressionless state. That night, faint sobbing echoed in the bedroom. Madam was actually not as indifferent as she appeared on the surface. After Marquis Chang'an left in anger, he did not return for 3 consecutive days. The face-changing bone on Madam's face had already loosened most of her facial skin. The flesh underneath was nourished by goose silk, keeping it in a fresh state. Madam had been enduring the intense pain of flesh separating. Today, she finally became red-eyed with pain, showing weakness before me for the first time, calling me in a trembling voice. Miss Bai, the pain in this face is still too hard to bear. Accompany me for a stroll in the garden, to distract myself. The rockeries of the Marquis' estate were tall and wide, with peculiar landscaping. I led Madam closer, only to hear a woman's voice from around the corner. Huaner, why are the circles under your eyes even darker today? Another girl replied resentfully. I've been the one keeping watch these past few days. The Marquis and Missy play until midnight every night. If they don't call for water, I dare not sleep, and I have to wake up before dawn to tidy up. It would be strange if they weren't dark. The other person lowered her voice even further. Missy has truly bewitched the Marquis completely. Since she moved into the estate, the Marquis hasn't visited Madam's room at all. Last time I was on watch, the Marquis didn't close the window. I heard him praise Missy's snowy skin and fragrance, and her natural seductive charm. The maid's voice grew lower and lower, until it became inaudible. The hand Madam rested on my arm tightened. I turned to look at her. Her eyes were filled with tears. She shook her head slightly at me. I tacitly remained silent and supported her as we walked in the opposite direction. Returning to the inner courtyard, only then did I release my hold on Madam, to see the expression of the woman who had been silent all the way. With one glance, I saw tears silently streaming down Madam's face. She bit her lip hard, so hard that blood splattered, hearing with one's own ears that a husband of many years was intimate with another woman. Anyone would be unable to remain indifferent. I stood there quietly, waiting for Madam to finish crying. Then I pulled out a handkerchief and handed it to her while wiping her tears. Madam forced a smile. A forced smile more desperate than crying. The physical pain was no longer felt. Unable to bear it, I reached out to cover her tearful eyes and whispered, I think. When you are sad, You shouldn't force yourself to smile. I began to understand why Madame would rather endure the pain of face changing to escape. Her own parents plotted against her. The husband she loved betrayed her. Yet she was forced to stay here and accept all of this. If she didn't find a way to leave, every day and night in the future, she would live in agonizing torment. Wouldn't that be more painful than changing faces? In the blink of an eye, the 5th day arrived. The time for the face change had come. I asked Madame if there was a look she desired. In the pavilion of 1,000 faces at the makeup tower, with the collections of several generations of tower masters, consisting of all sorts of human faces. Madame shook her head, looking somewhat lost. In my childhood, to please my parents, I pretended to be filial and respectful. After marriage, to keep my husband's love, I remained gentle and considerate. It seems I never thought about what kind of person I wanted to become. For those in our profession, the greatest taboo is developing feelings for clients. Perhaps it is because the madam is truly beautiful. Seeing a beauty in distress, I couldn't help but feel heartache for her. When she was undecided, I made the decision for her. I have a childhood friend. At 18, he asked me to change his face to another man's. Then went to the battlefield to avenge his father, and never returned. Today, I have brought his face for you to wear. At the same time, I request you go to Huicheng in Jiangnan to visit my friend's mother for me. In return, your departure from the Marquis' manor, I will arrange everything for you. After the madam nodded in agreement, I left the manor to retrieve the icebox with the face from Dayanzhuang Pavilion. I hurried back to the manor with the box, only to find that Marquis Yang'an, unseen for days, had returned. The maids had all been driven out. Standing at the door, looking at each other in confusion, I heard the sound of porcelain shattering in the room, followed by the madam's questioning voice. I accepted you forcing me to accept a second wife. But you want me to personally arrange the wedding, to watch you bow and marry another with my own eyes. Chu Huixiu, how could you be so cruel to me? You swore before the god of marriage that your vow to love me solely for a lifetime was a lie. You never loved me at all. Marquis Yang'an coaxed her in a low voice, that disgusting man. How could I not have loved you? You were the first woman I loved when my heart first opened. Even with Ninger, the person I love most in my heart is still you. It's just that as the mistress of the house, some things, if you avoid them, will lead to gossip and criticism. You don't need to arrange much for the wedding. Just oversee the betrothal gifts and the list. Finalize the invitations to be sent to various families, and show your face during the tea ceremony on the wedding day. Disgusting man. Speaking of love to the madam, while doing things that hurt her. Perhaps because her departure was imminent, the madam stopped enduring it. I heard the sharp sound of a slap, followed by the madam's angry shout. Chu Huixiu, you are heartless and shameless. Get out. I will never arrange the wedding for you and Yi Gaining. If you are dissatisfied, you may simply cast me out with a letter of divorce. A long silence followed. Then came Marquis Yang'an's voice, gritting his teeth. You jealous woman, since you don't want the dignity I've given you. Then after I marry Ninger, you shall vacate this main courtyard for Ninger. Pack your things. Tomorrow I will have someone take you to the side courtyard. Of course I won't divorce you. Even if you die, you must die within my manor. The door was pushed open forcefully. Marquis Yang'an stormed out in a rage. I quickly stepped aside. with nowhere to hide the icebox in my hand, which was slowly emitting white vapor. Marquis Chang'an paused, staring with great displeasure. "What is in the box? The weather has turned cold, and you are still bringing ice treats to the madam." As he spoke, he reached out to take it. I took a step back with the box, explaining with a look of pretend panic. "This is a new kind of rock sugar cake from the East Market. To prevent it from melting, it is packed in a box after being made and kept frozen in an ice cellar. In fact, it doesn't taste cold." Marquis Chang'an stepped closer. "The madam doesn't like sweets. The madam loves this. I'll take it back to Fangfei Garden. What a wretched man who ruins everything." One of my hands, hidden in my sleeve, fiddled with a silver needle, intending to wait until Marquis Chang'an turned around, to stab it into his back and knock him unconscious. Just then, a teacup was thrown from the room, hitting Marquis Chang'an directly on the head. The madam appeared at the door with a stern face. "Your love, is it just like the cakes in that box? Because Yi Gaining likes them. So you take everything from me and send it to her, is that so?" As the two confronted each other, I felt the atmosphere was strained and couldn't help stealing a glance at Marquis Chang'an's expression. He seemed angry because the madam lost her temper and scolded him. But in the corners of his eyes and brows, there was a hint of uncontrollable pleasure. This man is truly pathetic." Marquis Chang'an placed the box in the madam's hand and said with a smirk, "Zhao, this is the first time I've seen you acting so jealous. Recently, you have been cold toward me. I almost thought you no longer cared for me. I know that Ninger's matter has caused you heartache lately. There are many days ahead. I will slowly make it up to you. He will soon realize that they will have no future at all." The madam didn't say a word, nor did she look at me. I followed her into the room. She turned around and shut the door with a bang. Marquis Chang'an stood outside for a while and then left. Before the madam lay down, I handed her a cup of tea mixed with painkillers. She shook her head, still refusing my kindness. She was still somewhat afraid. When I reached out, she blinked and took the initiative to start a conversation. "Let me tell you my story." Once I finished telling the story of being the Yi family's daughter and the life of a marquis's wife, it will end along with this story. I looked down at the madam's expression. She was smiling. "You are curious, aren't you? Curious why, though both were their parents' daughters. Only I was not loved. Curious why Chu Huixiu had an engagement with Yi Gaining, yet married me instead. After all, you'll even lean in to listen to sparrows quarreling outside the window, catching every single word, so my gossipy nature is that obvious." I started to laugh. "Since you've noticed, I won't pretend anymore. I am indeed very curious about your story." The madam's story begins when she was 2 years old. At 2, her father went south to serve as an official. Her mother, fearing he would keep mistresses, went with him, leaving her in the care of her grandmother. Her grandmother disliked that she was a girl and was very cold toward her. Usually, only maids and nannies accompanied her. Once she became sensible, she noticed other children were pampered and protected by their parents. So she secretly asked the nanny where her parents were. The nanny always comforted her, saying that when the new year came, her parents would come to reunite with her. She waited year after year, until she was 8 years old. Her father was reassigned back to the capital, bringing back a 5-year-old sister. She was distant and unfamiliar with her parents, and her parents, toward this daughter separated since childhood, had little affection. They only doted on the sister they had raised by their side. During the first Lantern Festival, after the sister arrived in the capital, the parents used the excuse that the sister had never seen the capital's lanterns, leaving her at home and taking only the sister out to enjoy. Unexpectedly, the festival was crowded and chaotic, and the 5-year-old sister went missing. The parents spent all their efforts searching for half a year. Yet there was still no news of the sister, so they consulted a fortune teller, who said that changing the elder sister's name to be related to the younger one would naturally bring the sister back through the bloodline. Thus, after losing her sister, she also lost her own name. From Yishi to Xunshu, Yishu was originally her sister's name. Throughout her growth, every time she was happy, her parents would mutter about the missing sister. "You're just enjoying blessings at home. Poor Shire who knows where she is suffering. Your sister hasn't been found yet. How can you be so happy, living such a good life with such a clear conscience? Everything you wear and carry should belong to your sister. She was fair and cute since childhood. These clothes and jewelry would surely look more beautiful on her." Such heavy accusations filled her small heart with guilt, forming a habit of humbly pleasing her parents. Her father's health was poor, and her mother suffered from headaches and back pain after childbirth. To treat her parents' health, she even knelt before a doctor for 3 days, begging for a chance to become an apprentice. After learning, she personally performed acupuncture and massage for them every month, and prepared medicinal baths. Through her efforts to please them, her parents gradually became closer to her. But this closeness, from the moment Yi Gaining was found, was entirely taken back by her parents. They treated her as the enemy of their beloved daughter, not hesitating to scheme against her until she lost her own child. During the 2 years her parents were in Chang'an, it was when Marquis Chang'an was taken by his parents to travel 1,000 miles for his grandmother's funeral and mourning. The two families formed a bond then. Marquis Chang'an became a student of her father, studying literature and writing. It coincided with her mother giving birth to the sister, so a betrothal was arranged for the two of them. After the sister went missing, Marquis Chang'an still visited frequently to see Master Yi, his first teacher. Over time, he became acquainted with her as well. Marquis Chang'an was only 2 months older than her. When her first feelings of love awakened, the madam secretly fell for this boy who would bring her candies, a young man who enjoyed folk trifles. But she knew he was her sister's betrothed, so she did not express her feelings. She even deliberately acted distant and cold. Later, Master Yi suggested not delaying the Marquis of Chang'an's marriage, wanting to cancel the betrothal arranged since childhood. It was the Marquis of Chang'an who rejected the proposal. He vowed solemnly in front of both sets of parents that he loved her and wished to fulfill the marriage contract with the Yi family. At 16, she married the man she loved but dared not hope for. He promised her she would be the only one for a lifetime. She was as happy as if she were in a dream. However, this dream lasted only 4 short years. 4 years later, the missing sister was found. The husband who had promised her a lifetime changed his demeanor after a night of passion with the sister, ignoring her shock, miscarriage, and postpartum recovery. He stated bluntly that he must take responsibility for the sister. He wanted to bring the sister in as an equal wife. She spent almost every day in tears during her recovery. The husband who once treated her with deep affection said, "He said this was my means of preventing the sister from entering. Everyone said I had stolen the sister's place. That I wasn't divorced now was already considered the Marquis showing mercy for old times. Everyone was forcing me to yield and compromise. wanting me to smile while watching the man I loved marry another woman. In desperation, came the scene of me entering the Dianzhuang pavilion. On the tip of the needle, I inserted into the lady's skin. Was a calming medicine. While talking, the lady fell asleep unconsciously. I took out a small bell, gently shaking the goo insect hidden beneath her skin. I retracted the goo threads clinging to the flesh. I slowly peeled off the face I had worn for 5 days. Without changing my expression, I put on the face of an old acquaintance from the ice box. The goo insect worked diligently inside, adjusting the fit between the skin and the bone. Until the third watch of the night, a dark shadow silently sneaked into the manor, and threw the female corpse he was carrying before me. Pointing to the lady sleeping on the bed, I told him, "Take her and the bundle beside her away together. Hide her in my room at Dianzhuang Pavilion for 2 days. Once the small bone emerges, you shall make a trip yourself and escort her to Aunt Zhao's house in Huicheng. I found the kerosene hidden under the lady's bed and drenched the entire room. Then I threw in a fire starter. The moment the flames engulfed the room, I used the momentum to leap up, jumping onto a distant tree to hide my figure. The maids had long been sent back to the servants' quarters. By the time the manor's people discovered the fire, half of the ladies' room had already collapsed. I saw the Marquis of Chang'an running over in panic, screaming the lady's name almost out of control. I saw a suicide note the lady had left in the courtyard, drifting with the wind to the Marquis's feet. He picked it up with trembling hands. Today I bid farewell with my life. All bonds of nurture are severed. All feelings of love are extinguished. From the highest heaven to the deepest yellow spring, I only wish to be apart from you and never meet again." I saw that fake, second Miss Yi, hugging the Marquis as he tried to rush into the fire, only to be pushed violently to the ground by him. After the manor's people put out the fire, they carried out a charred corpse. A mournful cry escaped the Marquis's throat as he knelt on the ground, weeping hysterically. "Zhao, I was wrong. I won't take an equal wife anymore. Please come back, okay? I only want you. From now on, I only want you." Human nature is inherently wretched, only knowing how to cherish after losing. I sneered, having no desire to watch this farce any longer, covered my face, and vanished into the night. I didn't expect that I would see the Marquis of Chang'an again after half a year. I was simply outside, taking a bouquet of flowers from a little beggar. When I smelled a strange fragrance, it was already too late. The incense entered my lungs, and my vision immediately went black as I collapsed. When I woke up, I was in a dark dungeon. The Marquis of Chang'an was sitting just behind a door. I rattled, the iron chains binding my feet to the wall. Somewhat surprised, "Where is this?" Why did you capture me? That the Marquis of Chang'an could track me down truly surprised me. It seems this man is not the lustful fool I thought he was. The Marquis's gloomy gaze fell upon me. With murderous intent clear, owner of Dianzhuang Pavilion, by Feiyan, return my wife to me. And I may spare your life today. I did not panic, and sneered, Marquis, isn't your wife right there in your manor? I even attended the ceremony on your wedding day. Just a month ago, your young wife seemed to be 4 months pregnant at the time. The day the madam faked her death to escape, Marquis Chang'an was heartbroken. His look of deep regret is still fresh in my mind. I thought he would at least remain faithful to the madam for a year or so. But to my surprise, in less than 2 months, he already had a child with that second Miss Jia. Such a filthy man who cannot bear loneliness, yet has the nerve to keep clinging to the madam. Marquis Chang'an retorted to me. I know Zhao she does not want me to take a second wife of equal rank, so Ninger entered the house only as a noble concubine. As long as she is willing to return, I can overlook the fact that she conspired with you to deceive me. She is still the only wife of me, Chu Huixiu. I looked at him with a hint of disgust. You, a filthy man who cannot keep himself pure. Being your wife, is that some kind of gift or honor? Marquis Chang'an gritted his teeth and said, By Feiyan, I am not wasting my breath with you. If you do not reveal Zhao she's whereabouts today, I will let you experience the various punishments unique to the Zhao prison of the Court of Judicial Review. After saying this, Marquis Chang'an picked up a small crossbow and pressed it lightly. 2 arrows struck my shoulder like shooting stars. The pain of flesh being pierced followed. The arrows must have been poisoned. I felt as if countless tiny insects were biting the wound. This is just a small lesson for you. If you still refuse to speak, the next thing to hit you will be more than just 2 arrows. I looked at Marquis Chang'an's gloomy face, and murderous intent boiled within me as well. From the moment the pavilion discovers I am in danger, to finding where I am imprisoned, it is estimated to take 2 days. I must find a way to stall this madman for 2 days. I pretended to be in pain, gasping for air, and said to Marquis Chang'an, since the Marquis could find me, you must have investigated the Dianzhuang Pavilion. The pavilion has a rule. We only accept orders and do not inquire about the client's affairs. As for your wife's whereabouts, I only know that she went southwest. She once mentioned wanting to see the steep mountain ridges there. The madam mentioned this to me casually. In his youth, Marquis Chang'an had traveled for study and had stayed in the Shu region for 2 years. He and the madam had promised to visit the Shu region together if they had the chance. After hearing this, Marquis Chang'an clearly remembered. This promise he had failed to fulfill. He remained silent for a moment, then called his subordinate to send people to investigate the Shu region. Immediately send people to the Shu region to investigate the events of that year. He threatened me coldly. I presume the pavilion master knows that I have no patience left for you. If no trace of my wife is found in the Shu region, I will personally carve the flesh from your body, piece by piece. Marquis Chang'an swept his sleeve and left, and the candlelight in the dungeon went out. I was imprisoned in endless darkness for 2 days. During that time, I had no food or water, until my whole body became weak from hunger, and my mind grew dizzy when I heard the sound of the door lock opening. I vaguely thought people from the pavilion had come to save me. It wasn't until I heard the messy and unsteady footsteps that I realized the newcomer was not there to rescue me. A sudden rustle, followed by a click, and a fire starter lit up in front of me. I saw the fake second Miss Yi. That delicate and beautiful face. I was not wearing a disguise, so second Miss Jia also recognized me. When her probing gaze fell upon my face, her eyes were filled with fear and panic. I heard Huixiu captured the master of Dianzhuang Pavilion. So it turns out it was you. Did you say anything about me in front of him? This woman probably came today to silence me. I tried to explain. Miss Yi, our Dianzhuang Pavilion has a rule. We never reveal guests' information to outsiders. I have not, in front of Marquis Chang'an, said anything regarding you. The woman before me clearly wouldn't listen to my words. A hint of ruthlessness appeared in her eyes. Looking at me, she said sinisterly, "Only dead people can keep secrets forever. Forgive me, Pavilion Master. I worked so hard to become a lady of a noble family, and worked so hard to become the Marquis' only woman. I cannot allow my current life of wealth and luxury to have even the slightest possibility of being destroyed." A cold glint flashed in her hand, and a sharp dagger plunged into my chest. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept in. I urgently cried out to stop it. "Who's there?" The blade swiveled, and the hilt struck the back of Miss Yi's head, knocking her unconscious instantly. I breathed a sigh of relief, finally no longer enduring the pain, crying out in pain while shouting. "Ayuan, hurry and help me break these chains. Put some painkiller on my wound." Ayuan silently treated my wound and stuffed a detoxification and chi-replenishing pill into my mouth. After seeing the color return to my face, she finally asked why. Is she blaming me for shaking off the people protecting me in secret? Traveling alone. I curled my lip. I just wanted to play freely for a couple of days. Who knew that Marquis Chang'an actually had some skill to track me down? One is ruthless and the other is poisonous. They truly are a perfect match. I tied up the fake young lady, threw her in the corner, then shackled her hands and feet with iron chains, quietly waiting for Marquis Chang'an's arrival. They created a fortuitous encounter for me, so I must return the favor. In the evening, Marquis Chang'an arrived quickly, dressed in black. This time, he didn't interrogate me through the prison door. He entered the cell immediately and grabbed me by the throat. "You dare deceive me." It seems he's gone mad because he couldn't find any trace of his wife. He was furious to the point of madness. His eyes were bloodshot. He drew the blade from his waist, intending to carve flesh from my shoulder. I grinned, broke free from the chains, and shot a silver needle straight into Marquis Chang'an's chest. He was caught off guard. I was able to fight back. In an instant, he was affected by my drug and collapsed weakly to the ground. I called out to Ayuan on the roof. "Drag that woman over here." I was truly curious. Marquis Chang'an dotes on this beauty so much. If he knew her true identity, how would he feel? Without a word, Ayuan went to the corner and carried Ji Guining over, tossing her at Marquis Chang'an's feet. Drugged and powerless, Marquis Chang'an couldn't struggle. He could only glare at me fiercely. "Don't touch her. I captured you. I wanted to kill you. Take it out on me." I shook my head, pointed to the blood on my chest, and said, This was a stab from your precious concubine. If my people hadn't arrived in time to prevent the blade from going deep, I would have been killed and silenced by her. Marquis Chang'an didn't believe it. Ninger has always been fragile and timid. If you hadn't tied her up and brought her here, she wouldn't even dare enter this dark room. The fake Missy was already terrified and could only weep and beg. Marquis, save me. I am carrying our child. I watched the beauty weep like pear blossoms in the rain, and saw the look of heartache on Marquis Chang'an's face. I couldn't help but clap in praise. What wonderful acting! This is how you deceived Marquis Chang'an, making him betray his wedded wife, abandon his vows to revel with you night after night. As expected of Hua Muden, whose beauty once echoed across the willow banks. Your skill in manipulating men is quite impressive, isn't it? Hua Muden's cries became shrill. Shut up, Marquis. This woman is making up lies to harm me. Do not believe a single word she says. Marquis Chang'an's expression darkened, staring intensely at me. What do you mean by that? I stepped on Hua Muden's neck with my foot, forcing her to bow her head toward Marquis Chang'an. I held the lamp and leaned over, finding a pale red dot beneath Hua Muden's ear, and pointed it out to Marquis Chang'an. The Marquis should have investigated, the only trace left by our Dayanzhuang pavilion's face swapping is the wound where the goo insect entered and exited behind the ear. Take a look. The person in front of you is not the real second Missy at all. She simply used second Missy's face. Marquis Chang'an's pupils contracted. He looked at Hua Muden and asked, "Is what she says true? Who on earth are you?" Hua Muden couldn't hide the panic on her face, but she still insisted, "Marquis, I am ye Gaining. I am your wife, the mother of your child. Do not listen to the provocations of outsiders." I clicked my tongue. I said to Hua Muden, "The value of a marriage lies in mutual honesty. Since you refuse to tell the truth, I shall speak for you." Then I turned to Marquis Chang'an and said slowly, "She was once the most famous courtesan of the Huyu Pavilion in Jiangnan. Later, as she grew older, she became a madam. Don't be fooled by the fresh face of a 17-year-old she wears now. Inside, she is already 32. It seems she's even a full cycle older than you." The expression on Marquis Chang'an's face shifted several times. He probably did not want to believe it, that he had actually slept with an older brothel woman like her, so he denied it outright. Impossible. Ninger is innocent and naive by nature. She is nothing like a woman in her 30s. I sneered and asked Marquis Chang'an, "Whether she is or not, can you really not tell for yourself, my lord? If she were truly a pure, unmarried girl of 17, how could she have bewitched you so completely? You don't actually think she was born gifted at that, do you? Those were only tricks she mastered after years. In the pleasure trade, I heard Marquis Chang'an is obsessed with cleanliness." After hearing what I said, Marquis Chang'an imagined the woman beside him, having been used by countless lowly men. Sure enough, he looked like he was about to vomit. His eyes nearly split with rage as he glared at Hua Muden. Hua Muden was still shaking her head in denial. What he's saying is false. My lord, don't believe him. Look at me. I am the genuine daughter of the Yi family. Look at this face of mine. Didn't you say I looked as innocent and pure as the girl in your childhood memories? Marquis Chang'an darkened his face and avoided her gaze. Everything that needed to be said had already been said. I made my move. Using a Yuan's sword hilt, I smashed 2 of Marquis Chang'an's fingers until they broke. This is for the 2 arrows you used to wound me. As for Hua Muden, I broke our agreement by exposing your face-swapping identity, so that cancels out the knife wound you owed me. Oh, right. The real second Miss Yi's body is still kept in our Dianzhuang pavilion in Jiangnan. If Marquis Chang'an, or those 2 old fools from the Yi family want to claim it, prepare 100 taels of gold first. After returning to Dianzhuang pavilion, a Yuan lowered his brows, clearly looking unhappy. They hurt you. Why didn't you just kill them? I smiled and patted a Yuan's head. Sometimes living is far more painful than dying. Besides, Hua Muden may not survive Marquis Chang'an's fury anyway. With the clues I provided, Marquis Chang'an soon found out Hua Muden's true identity. The Yi parents also learned that for the sake of a fake daughter, they had driven their real daughter to die in the fire. Just to cut ties with them forever, back at the pavilion, I received the Yi parents, who came carrying 100 taels of gold. Both of them looked haggard, as if their souls had left their bodies. Old Madame Yi's eyes were swollen red from crying. Pavilion Master Bai, was my daughter truly killed by that vicious woman from the Marquis' manor? Could you take me to see her? Without any politeness, I accepted half of the 100 taels of gold. Of course. This is the deposit, if you confirm that the body really is your missing second daughter. Then I will take the remaining half. When I set off for Jiangnan with the 2 elders, Marquis Chang'an also came. He rode behind our carriage on horseback. I heard that His Majesty had dismissed him from office these past few days as commander of the Imperial Guards. He had mobilized them without permission to catch me and find out where his wife had gone. On the road, Marquis Chang'an rode up beside my carriage and asked me in a low voice, "What is your relationship with His Majesty?" I gave a contemptuous smile and replied, "What does that have to do with you? In any case, I am not someone you can afford to offend. Now that you have lost your official post and only have an empty title left, you are even less qualified to provoke me." Of course, I would not tell him that the current emperor is my biological father. Without such a powerful backer, how could Dianzhuang Pavilion have remained so stable in my hands? My mother was once gentle and obedient, just like the madam. She and my father fell in love when they were young, privately pledged themselves to each other, and had me. Later, that dog emperor ascended the throne, and new women filled his palaces. My mother could not accept sharing her husband with others, so heartbroken, she resolutely chose to leave. Until her death, she never looked back. I think the reason I cannot help being soft-hearted toward the madam is partly because I see my mother's shadow in her. When they love, they give without fear. And when they leave, they can do so decisively without turning back. After 2 months on the road, we arrived at Dianzhuang Pavilion in Jiangnan. I personally brought Marquis Chang'an and the Yi parents. To claim the body, the pavilion assigned a maid to serve by my side. When we went to open the ice chamber, the maid stepped ahead of me and reached out to push open the door for me. Because the face was gone, so I covered second Missy's face with a white veil. Old Madam Yi stepped forward and threw herself. Beside the body with trembling hands, she lifted the shroud. The clothes on the body. There was a burn on the leg, and on the ankle. There was a scar from being bitten by a neighbor's dog as a child. This is the daughter I have been searching for 12 years. That woman from the Marquis manor. Don't think that because she committed suicide to avoid punishment. I have no way to settle the score with her. The debt of her killing my daughter. Master Yi's legs went weak. He collapsed to the ground. His face bore a vast, empty sadness. My daughter, your father arrived too late. Don't be afraid, your parents will take you home now. Let's go home. Marquis Chang'an watched in silence until the Yi parents wiped away their tears. When they wanted to take away second Missy's body, he stepped forward and blocked my path. Is my wife in Chang'an? I offended Pavilion Master Bai before. I am willing to sever one of my own arms, as an apology to you, to atone to you, only begging you to tell me the whereabouts of my wife. When the Yi parents heard Marquis Chang'an mention the madam, all turned to look. A light of hope appeared in old Madam Yi's eyes. Hesitantly looking at me, she asked, Pavilion Master Bai, is our Xunshu here with you? In the past, we as parents let her suffer grievances. During the days she was gone, her father and I always had health problems. Only now do we realize everything she had done to care for our health. She is a filial and good child. It was we parents who were not good. Old Master Yi looked over with reddened eyes. After losing a fake daughter, and then learning of their real second daughter's death, they finally remembered how good the madam had been to them. I looked at the Yi parents and asked, even if she is still around, so what? You ruined her marriage. Caused the death of her child. Do you still expect her to return without resentment and continue being your obedient, filial daughter? The two were questioned by me until tears streamed down their old faces, unable to speak. After a long while, Master Yi sighed. Forget it. We have no face to see her again. Knowing that she is living well somewhere in this world is enough. Old Madam Yi took off the jade bracelet on her wrist, the hair ornament on her head, and the jade pendant she wore close to her body. She removed them one by one and stuffed them into my hands, begging, if the pavilion master meets our Xunshu, please help deliver these things to her. Out of the corner of my eye, I looked at the maid by my side. She was expressionless. Her gaze was as calm as if looking at a stranger. So I put my hands behind my back, took a step back. Dianzhuang Pavilion does not have a delivery service. Please take your things back, madam. The Yi parents looked crestfallen. Their bodies hunched. They left with stumbling steps. Marquis Chang'an still stood in place. He looked at me and said with certainty, you must know the whereabouts of Zhao. Consider it my plea for you to tell me. I know I broke her heart. At least give me a chance to apologize in person. I apologize to you for the previous offense. If that is still not enough, after I have seen Zhao for the last time, if Pavilion Master Bai wants my life, I can give it too. I looked at the obsession and pleading on Marquis Chang'an's face. and only felt that this man was ridiculous. What are you pretending for? When she was by your side, you abandoned her to consort with others. Shortly after she died, you even had the heart to make a child with someone else. Now you say you're willing to trade your life for a piece of information. It makes me feel sick just hearing it. Hypocrite, if you want to find her so badly, then simply don't return to the capital to be your pampered Marquis. Just wear plain clothes and blend into the crowd, and search every corner of the world for her. If you love her that much, if she were before you would surely recognize her at a glance, right? Marquis Chang'an closed his eyes. 2 lines of tears of regret fell down his face. Finally, he turned and left, until only our own people were left in the pavilion. The maid by my side finally turned to look at me. Long time no see, Miss Bai. I looked at the face of this former friend and saw a smile I had not seen in many years. Long time no see. I can no longer call you madam now. Xunshu and Zhao, which one is your name now? The Yi parents call her Xunshu. Marquis Chang'an calls her Zhao. I wonder which name she prefers now. The madam gently shook her head. None of them are my name. Now I practice medicine outside with my mother. I named myself Zhao Chang'an. The patients all call me An Yang. Hearing that she named herself, I asked her, did Aunt Zhao realize you aren't her daughter? The lady nodded and said, even using the same face. At the first glance, Mother recognized I wasn't the former Miss Zhao. I told her my story. She pitied me and let me be her goddaughter. Today, I had specially arranged for her to meet the Yi parents and Marquis Chang'an today. And now her words are calm. Her gaze is serene, as if those people's regrets and tears had not left a single trace in her heart. I told Zhao Chang'an about Hua Muden and said with some embarrassment, you may blame me if you wish. If it weren't for the face I swapped for her, she wouldn't have been recognized back into the Yi family and wouldn't have had the chance to steal the parents and husband that belonged to you. Zhao Chang'an shook her head slightly. Father and mother didn't love me. Whether there was a sister or not, it's the same. As for Chu Huixiu, was able to break his oath to me so easily. Even if Yi Gaining hadn't appeared, there would have been someone else later. In short, the former Yi Xunshu is dead. She will not forgive the harm they caused. The past is sealed in former years. Now the living Zhao Chang'an only regards them as strangers. I began to smile. It seems Zhao Chang'an has truly let go of the past. Then, An Yang, I wish you eternal peace and happiness.